Hello again and welcome to another episode with me, Bernard Caro, on Magic the Gathering some stuff. Alright, now today I'm not going to be worrying about a commander deck today. It's a little long and the last episode was a little too long, you know what I mean? So today I'm going to tell you about this 60 card deck that I created. It's a really good homebrew. Took me a while to really get it working and understanding it. However, it's actually a really good cheap deck. And by cheap, I mean you can afford it. You can build it yourself. And it costs maybe $20 just to make it. I'm pretty sure some of you are looking at me going, yeah, you got that Walmart, didn't you? No, I just went, found the cards I needed, and as I play tested it, figured out which ones worked, which ones didn't. You know? First things first, this time, not only am I going to be talking about Magic the Gathering, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about Populate. Okay? Now let's think about Populate for a second. When I talk about Populate, when it comes to Magic the Gathering, it's this particular ability. You get to create an extra token of a token creature that's already on the field, but you only get to make one. So like, let's say you got goblins, merfolk, soldiers, whatever. If you want to make, if there's all those on the field, you want to make one of each, you can't. You have to choose one and you make an extra of that one. Bit of a drag, but with the way that I've been playing this deck, it's actually really crazy how Populate works. Now, let me go ahead and give a brief history about Populate. When it came out, people were like, who cares about it? It's not as good as Proliferate. Duh. When it comes to Proliferate, it's ridiculously powerful. Because think about it, Proliferate, it says, and there it is, here's the definition, but I'm going to go ahead and read it off. Proliferate, what it says is you can put a counter on anything that has a counter on it. So if you have creatures with +1/+1 counters on them, you can choose to give one of them, all of them, or none of them additional counters. Same thing for --/ counters, as well as poison counters. Because poison counters do count as legitimate counters, you can actually end up poisoning your opponent to death. So, it goes hand in hand. Really very powerful team up. And people were hoping that Populate would end up being the same thing. No, not the same thing. Sadly, but at the same time, when I started playing Populate, I realized why they didn't make it that powerful. Because with the way Populate already works, if it worked similar to Proliferate, this is what would happen. Let's say you have Krinko on the field. Let's say you're running Krinko. Okay, his ability says, tap, create X amount of goblins for each goblin you already control. So let's say you have 5 goblins. Tap him, he gives you another 5 goblin tokens. However, if Populate worked like I'm suggesting, then here's how bad it would be. Tap, he'd make 5, tap to play a Populate card, and you turn those 5 into 10. Yeah, that is something that people were hoping for, but think about it, that's a little too fast. And goblins are fast enough as it is. They don't need that much help. Same thing for elves. They're ridiculously fast. They can make tokens too. So can snakes, but that's a different story. So because of the fact that these creatures can swarm way too fast as it is, Populate is a little weaker. Especially seeing as how there are some tokens you can create that are huge, like one particular elf who says tap 5 untapped elves you control, create a 7/7 elemental with trample. I need to reread you just in case, but it's a 7/7 elemental. So if Populate worked similar to Proliferate, then you would end up going Proliferate. Now you got 2, Proliferate. Now you got 4, Proliferate. Now you got 8, and it would just keep doubling. This is not doubling season. Okay, yeah, doubling season is a really good card, very expensive, but if you don't have it, that's okay, don't worry about it. Populate is still powerful on its own. You just got to know how to play it right, and that's what I ended up doing with this deck. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to my Populate deck. So these are the colors I'm running, green and white. I suggest running 9 forests and 8 plains. Now, some of y'all are thinking, okay, that doesn't sound like 20 lands. No, it's not. But then again, I've got 3 non-basic lands in here, that you are going to want to run. So there's Celestia's Sanctuary. I know it's a bounce land. You only run, and I'm only running one of them. However, I discovered that if you run too many of those, it can actually slow you down a little bit. So having one is good enough, and plus, it'll tap and give you two colors that you need. So it's a good card, but it's one of those that you don't want to have too many of, especially in a deck like this when you want some speed. The next two are the Grove of the Guardian. It's a really good rare land that's worth maybe 20 cents. But here's what it does. You can tap it for one colorless, or once you start getting your creature flowing, it costs three colorless, three colorless, a green and a white. Then you have to tap two untapped creatures you control. So it's a bit expensive. But once you pull that off, you're going to tap three colorless, green, white, two creatures, tap and sack it to create an 8/8 elemental with vigilance on the field. And with the way Populate works, you can potentially have two on the field rather than one. Yeah, so there you go. You're going to have yourself an 8/8 right there. That's a good key card. But I'm only running two. Why? Because its ability is a bit expensive. But that's still a good card to use last minute. Especially if your opponent is doing something like, okay, I made my creature monstrous. There's nothing you can do about it. I swing. Tap my creature. I'll block my creatures, tap them, tap sack. Here's an 8/8 to block as well. Now your creature dies. So yeah, that's what I did one time. It saved my skin. I was like, ugh. But hey, there we go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get into the creatures. Okay, I am running three of this guy. I found that if you run four, it's a little, it kind of just gets in the way, and you're like, why am I making all these tokens? Because these tokens are a little weak. But it's still making tokens, and they're helpful tokens as well. This is called the Llanowar Mentor. He's a 1/1 for 1 green, and what he does is he creates Llanowar creatures. Well, I should say Llanowar elves. I'll tell you about those guys in just a second. I'm sure everybody already knows who they are. If you don't, you'll find out. So what he does is you tap a green, tap him, discard a card, create a Llanowar elf token. Okay, so now that I told you how he works, thanks to Populate, you can make more of these tokens. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you about the next card, which is the Llanowar elves themselves. I'm only running three of this guy. You don't really need to have four, because with the help of the mentor, you'll just start pumping them out like crazy. So here we go. We have the Llanowar elves. They're 1/1 for 1, and they tap to produce 1 green to your mana pool. With the mentor, you're making Llanowar elf tokens. So with the help of those guys, you can pay for just about anything. So there you go. You got that nice little build up. And with the help of Populate, you just keep making more and more of those tokens. You'll start being able to pay for just about anything. And with the fact that land is a little expensive, that really helps. It really does. Alright. Next one. This is another one of those token creators. I only run 2. But because of the way this deck runs, I only need the 2. And also, its ability is a little expensive. It can get in the way. So, be a little careful with this one. It's a nice little wall. It's a 0/1 for 1. But what she can do is you tap 3, sack her, and she will give you a 3/3 Centaur token. And with the help of Populate, you can start making more of those centaurs. So basically, she pops, and there you go. Now you can get your Populate rolling. It's kind of like Snowball. Drop a snowball from the top of a mountain, and it just gets bigger, bigger, bigger. That's the way Populate works. Okay, here we go. We have a little bit of a mana accelerant. Her name is the Sylvan Ranger. She's a 1/1 for 2. When she comes into play, search your deck for a basic land, put it into your hand. Sounds a little slow, but that's a lot better than Rampant Growth. I mean, yes, Rampant Growth brings it into play, but brings it into play tapped. This one says, bring it into your hand. Now, let's say you don't have any lands in your hand. You can be like, okay, I'll tap 2, play her, I'll search for a forest, maybe a plains, and then once it's in your hand, you can play it from your hand, tap it, I'll play a Llanowar elf. Something like that. So it gives you a little bit of extra speed. It's a good card. I actually recommend running it in other decks. You just gotta play her right. Otherwise, she's just You know, if you got plenty of lands in your hand, she's just going to end up being a blocker, which is basically all she does anyway. Next we have, and this guy is in here mainly because he is a really good offense and defensive card. So that's the key why he's in here, you know, for good defense. This is called Wilt Leaf Cavalier. Sometimes these names are a little tongue twister, so I gotta have to read it carefully. So I want to run 2 of this guy. I found I only need 2 of him. He's a 3/4 for 3, but have a look. He's a split color, which means you can use any combination you want, just as long as it's 3 of them, green or white. Really good card, and he has vigilance. So like I said, he's a good offense and defensive card. And he's a 3/4 for 3. That's not, you know, something you find very often, and he's uncommon. Guess what? He's also a cheap uncommon. You can get him for under $1. Really good. Try to get yourself as many of him as possible, but I found that 2 is enough. You know? And plus, this next creature is the reason why you don't really need more than 2 of him. But if you end up getting more of this guy, then you may want to replace it. It all depends on your tastes. Alright, next we have the Wayfaring Temple. Alright, now this guy is a star for 4. He's a rare for under $1. Isn't that silly? Under $1. Now, some of you are thinking, okay, he's a star. That means he has power and toughness equals something. That's very true. And I'm going to go ahead and explain. Star for 3, his power and toughness is equal to the amount of creatures you control. That's why he's really good in the Populate deck. But what makes him excellent in the Populate deck, whenever he attacks and deals damage to a player, or I should say combat damage, has to be combat, you know, you can't check and be like, I'll shoot you for 1. When he deals combat damage to a player, Populate. So thanks to him, you'll just start making more and more creatures. And your opponent will probably be like, okay, I need to get rid of that guy. But with the help of some of the cards that are in this deck, you may be able to protect him. Keep him from getting hurt or killed. You can actually keep things rolling in this thing. Alright, so now we're moving on to spells. I know creatures count as spells as well, but when I say spells, I lump those into being sorceries, enchantments, instants, things like that. Reason why is because I feel like those are actual spells, whereas these are creatures that you summon. It's like, hey, come over here, I need your help, that kind of thing. Okay, so the first spell, play a set of these. Reason why is because I like to run in any of my green or white decks, and especially if I can, even though it's an expensive card, I want to run Darkness in black. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this all up is because I gave this card a nickname, and that nickname is Populate Fog. And the reason why is because that's exactly what it is. However, it costs 2, but that's okay. It's still Fog. So it's called the Druid's Deliverance. Costs 2 to play, common is all that. You can get it for maybe 2 pennies, maybe. Instant speed, prevent all combat damage, Populate. So, you know, you get to, you know, use your imagination. You get to play this, and all of a sudden a fog rolls in, and then once it rolls out, everybody's like, hey, there's an extra dude here. Yeah, that's pretty much how this card works. You just make an extra dude. No, it's a really good card. You gotta have you gotta have a playset of these in this deck, you know, because it'll really get that Populate ramping quick. You know, it costs 2, so it's really helpful. All right, the next spell, I run only 3 of these. It's an enchantment. It's called the Intangible Virtue. This is really good because of the fact that you're going to be running mainly token creatures, and pretty much this is Glorious Anthem, but this is Glorious Anthem only for tokens, and only tokens you control. So they're all going to get +1/+1 and vigilance on top of it. That's what's nice about this enchantment. It's uncommon, but it's actually pretty easy to get a hold of it. It looks like it's from Eldritch Moon, and it's got that nice little fork look, whatever. But, you know, this is one of the key cards that you want to run in this deck, because, you know, kind of, you can scare your opponent with, you know, you got that 8/8 elemental, he becomes a 9/9, hello. you can actually make it a little tougher. Same thing for all your centaurs and all your Llanowar elves. They become 4/4, 2/2 with vigilance, so you can attack with them, you can block with them, you can even play little tricky maneuvers during the battle phase. You know, I'll block my Llanowar elves, I'll tap 2 and I'll populate, or something like that. Next, we're going to go ahead and here's another play set. You're going to need 4 of these because of the fact that they're going to help you start that populate going quick. This is called the Call of the Conclave. Costs 2 to play, and it gives you a 3/3 green centaur creature token. You know, you may be thinking that doesn't seem like much. Maybe not, but the fact that you can make a 3/3 centaur creature token and populate starts running, then this is one of those key cards that'll help that snowball effect. Matter of fact, this is the snowball of the deck. You start it small and it keeps going. That's the whole point. So yeah, you're gonna make centaur tokens with that guy or girl or whatever it is. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and talk about both of these because they both do the exact same thing. I have 2 of each. And the reason why is because, like I just said, they both do the exact same thing, but it's also to help with that nice little balance act. I like to play a little bit of a balance act because then you have a better chance of getting what you need depending on how your mana is flowing at that time. So we have the Parallel Lives and the Anointed Procession. Both cost 4, both are enchantments, both are rare, maybe $1. You know, that's about $1. But these particular enchantments, what they do is whenever a token comes into play, you may make double the amount of those tokens. So, you know, like I said earlier, if you're playing Krinko, tap, he'll give you 5. Tap, he'll give you 10 instead. And that's the whole point of this, you know, play Call of the Conclave, now you'll make 2 3/3 centaurs. Same thing with the 8/8 elemental. You know, that's the whole point of, you know, that's the center. Matter of fact, that's the mountain. That's exactly what it is. It is the mountain of this deck. It starts tall and rolls quick. Might be a steep slope, I don't know. Mystery, da-da-da. Alright, next we have, and I only run 3 of this enchantment. Reason why is because I found if I have 4, it'll actually get in the way, and it'll slow the deck down a little too much, to where you're like, I need something else, when in fact you just, you know, you don't really need, but yeah, you need 3 of this one. It is called the Growing Ranks. Cost 4, another split card, always good to have that split mana. This is another one of those uncommons, get for less than maybe 50 cents, maybe. And what it does is during your upkeep you get to populate. Have that in combination with the Parallel Lives, and you'll start making populate really run. I'm not even kidding. I've actually beaten somebody with 20 creatures on the field. I didn't expect it. He didn't expect it. It was just, I just overwhelmed him. Next spell, this is for mana acceleration, but it's also to help you find the land that helps you it helps you create the 8/8 elemental. So this is the Sylvan Scrying. You know, for 2, search your deck for a for a land. You know, I usually say non-basic land, mainly because that's all I ever use Sylvan Scrying for. But it searches for a land, so you know, if you're like kind of screwed, you need land, you can search for any of them. But it's meant to find the non-basic ones. So there you go. You're gonna have that, get it to your hand, so that you can get that elemental out as quick as possible. All right, here's another card I run 3 of for the same reason. You don't want to end up with too many in your hand. I use this mainly for my mentor's ability, because you know my mentors are going to toss something from my hand to the graveyard so I can make a landing token. But if you run into the problem that I ran into once before, where you don't have a choice and you have to pay the hard cast it, then yeah, go for it. It's a really nice card though. I'll tell you why it's so clunky. It's called Roar of the Worm. Yeah, have a look at that casting cost, 7. Oh my god. But this is why it costs 7. It lets you create a 6/6 green worm token. Now yeah, that token doesn't have vigilance, it doesn't have trample, but it's a 6/6 worm. That's why it costs 7. Well, partly. Another reason why it costs 7 is, have a look, flashback. Yeah, flashback for 4. So you get to create another 6/6 worm. All you gotta do is exile it from the graveyard. So when I saw this card, I fell in love with it instantly, because I was like, dude, I can make these worms. And I had people tell me, you're an idiot. I was like, really? So I went ahead and showed these people who called me an idiot just how scary this thing can be. So I used the mentor, tossed it, and then during combat phase they thought they had an upper hand, and I went tap 4, exile, 6/6 Yeah. So then they were like, oh, okay, that's different. Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole point, is that you want to do that. You know, you don't want to have to get into a situation where you have to hard cast it, but I went up against somebody and it went back and forth for like 20 turns, and I didn't have a choice. I just did not have a choice. We cleared each other's fields just from attack, defense. We ended up just clearing it. We just could not get a nice foothold on either side. So it was a good long run. He was impressed. I was impressed. So, you know, that's all you really need is 3 of those. If you have 4, you're going to end up kind of getting stuck. Alright, next. This card is really awesome. This is one of those defensive cards similar to Populate Fog. Now, I say similar because some of you do like the ability to say, I want everybody to not deal damage. But some of you may want to be a little selfish, be like, no, I want my creatures to deal damage. Well, this is kind of the middle ground for that card, and because of what it does, that's why it fits in this deck so well. This is called Root-Bound Defenses. Costs 3 to play. I know, it's a little expensive compared to Populate Fog, but Root-Bound Defenses, first you populate. There's the key. First you populate. So let's say you got 3 creatures, they got 4. You're just like, okay, I'll populate, I'll make another centaur. Then all your creatures gain indestructible. I really don't need to say more after that. You know, now your creatures are indestructible, they will survive after this, and they will deal the damage to your opponent's creatures. So you could end up clearing their field of like 2, 3, or all of their creatures. Just depends on, you know, the situation. But the fact that it helps give your creatures indestructible is awesome, and because of the way the deck runs, you need the populate. So because that happens first, you get an additional creature and they all gain indestructible. It's awesome. I love it. Now we're down to my favorite card. This is the trump card, the key card in this deck. Run a playset. This is a rare and it goes for under $1. Matter of fact, I think it goes for $1.20, somewhere around there. But anyway, this card is the biggest key to this deck of winning. It is called Advent of the Worm. Costs 4 to play. It's an instant. Looks like it came out in Gate Crash. Costs 4 to play. Put a 5/5 green worm creature token with trample onto the battlefield. Yeah, I've actually run this deck. This deck just is amazing with that one card alone, because, you know, tap 4 is like, oh, tap 4, but you know what, the way this deck runs, I'm pretty sure you've already noticed everything in here is 4 or lower. I don't have anything more than 5 except for the Roar, and the reason why is because I just use it for its flashback ability. So if I were to look at it just flashback, it costs 4. So yeah, that's how this deck runs. Now, I know you're already thinking, you know, that's a really nice creature. The thing is, it's instant speed. Nobody really thinks about that. It's instant speed. You make a 5/5 token, and, you know, with the help of a certain enchantment, it now has Vigilance, and it's now a 6/6. You know, I actually did that to my opponent one time. He made a creature monstrous, and it had trample. I was like, oh my god! So I did something that really screwed him up. I had just enough to do this. It cost 7 total, but it was so sweet. I had nothing to block with. He was like swing for 8. Tapped 4. I created the worm, and I went ahead and said, okay, I want to declare blockers. I declared the worm as a blocker. Then I tapped 3 and played the indestructible spell. So I populated, I created another 5/5 worm. It had trample. However, both of them gained trample, both of them gained indestructible, blocked with them, and killed his 8/8 trampling monstrous creature. He was not expecting that. Next turn, you know, I had the other enchantment that said make another one. There it was. Now, also because of that instant speed stuff, because you're doing it during your opponent's turn, as soon as it's your untap step, it loses the summoning sickness. So you get to attack with the creature. Okay? So there you go. This is how my deck runs. If you want to build this deck, go for it. Like I said, it is under 20 bucks to build. It is really fun deck. It's a lot of silly combinations that work really well together with each other. There are some creatures that I did run in here at first, but I took them out because they were too slow. So if any of you are thinking, why didn't you run that one elf? That's a good elf, but her ability slowed it down way too much because I had to tap forward just to activate her ability. So rather than running her, I just said, you know, take her out and I'll just put in these enchantments. Faster, work better, and plus, you know, being a creature, it's easier to kill the creature rather than it is to kill an enchantment. Not a lot of people run, you know, naturalize, even though they probably should. Still, that's how this deck runs. If you see anything you want to do to make it better, I say go for it. If you have the money to really ramp it up, hey, more power to you. But I've already done the research, I've already done the hard work and play tested it. This thing's fun. You really don't need to do much more to it. It's a really good solid deck. I highly recommend playing it. Try it out. Y'all find some other cards that work well, go for it, play them. I really think you should. It's a great deck. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you guys came up with. I hope this video was very helpful to you. Have a good day. Oh, and here's a little thing to tell you about for next episode. Because it's almost Halloween, I'm going to have a little fun thing. I'm going to talk about zombies. But it's not going to be zombies like you may think. It's not going to be Magic the Gathering. This is actually going to be me asking you people what you would do. I'll tell you about it in the next video. Until then, have a good day and don't think about it too hard. Just play the game and have fun.